Let's look at lilies, the plant family Liliaceae. For this, you should be able to describe characteristics of the lily plant family, identify a plant as belonging to the lilies, list several important lily species, and contrast this plant family with other plant families. So let's look at the leaves first. So like grasses, lilies have parallel veins. But what I want to point out here is those veins might, branch, and I'm using that word generously, from a central vein. You can see how they all kind of converge on that central vein area. Now, that's not exactly parallel, but that does allow some interesting architecture in the plant, but those are still parallel veins. There are many different forms, from grass-like to some standing herbs that can be up to 1 meter tall and look almost like little trees. Matthew 6 refers to lilies and grasses, and there may have been some overlap in the terms in the biblical narrative. So this is kind of interesting. If you look at the word grass and you look at the word lily, look for examples when you see grass flowers mentioned. Speaking of flowers, this is what a lily flower looks like. I want you just to know this little formula. 3 plus 3 plus 6 plus 3. 3 outer petals, 3 inner petals, 6 stamens, and a 3-part stigma. Now, some of you might know that those petals have a technical name. That technical name is tepals, and I am kind of glossing over a lot there, but suffice it to say this is an easy way of identifying them with a 3 plus 3 plus 6 plus 3. Because there are a wide variety of colors, petal shapes, and sizes out there, this formula stays pretty consistent. And one of the reasons for that variety is the lily family is kind of a dumping ground for different plants that just look kind of lily-like. So sometimes plants might look like they're really not very familiar to each other, but they are both considered parts of the lily family. So it's a bit of a dumping ground, and that formula stays pretty true. Now the fruit here is a 3-part capsule. Doesn't that look delicious? No, because lily fruit really aren't edible. Now, there might be some exceptions, or you can always try to make a stew out of it or something, but no, most of them are just dry. And the seeds can be shaken out because they break apart along certain little lines. And we're going to use the term dehiscent later in the class to describe that kind of a fruit. So what's their superpower? Now, they're bulbs. The bulbs are their superpower. So these are parts of the stem that can kind of burrow down into the ground and form little offshoots. Now, those offshoots mean if you have a single daffodil plant, and you grow it long enough in the right type of soil, you'll grow more daffodil plants and you can then sell them, which is why lilies are so marketable, because you can sell more and make more pretty easily. It also means they tend to expand really well in a garden if they're given the right conditions. They have contractile roots here. These roots come from the bottom, and then every year they kind of dig themselves a little deeper in the ground, which helps the bulb get deeper and deeper, and thus helps the plant grow and get better moisture. Let's look at some examples here. The tiger lily, Lilium canadense. This is a pretty common plant. It's a very common ornamental in America. It's native to eastern U.S. It's very low maintenance. It can grow up to 1 meter tall, and because those bulbs keep spreading out, you can get a good garden full of these with relatively little care. Tulips are another great garden plant. That's the Tulipa species. They originated in Turkey. There are some very rare varieties out there, and then like these, there are very common ones which just look like little paint brushes and little dabs of color. They make a great addition to a garden, and they will die back every year, so they're pretty good plants. If you want to see something really interesting about tulips, though, look up Semper Augustus. Not the company, the tulip. It has an interesting history in something called tulipomania, which we'll cover in class because it's funny. And if you're a good Protestant, you know that John Calvin loved tulip. If you know, you know. Next up, camas, Camassia quamash. This is a native plant. Well, native-ish. It's native to the eastern part of the state, or Idaho. And the native people here would use that as a source of starch. So it can be planted and grows really well in the dry soils here. It is above ground during the time of year when it is most rainy here and best for growth, and then it goes just dormant for a while too. So wonderful plant for planting, grows well here. The bulbs are edible. They do have to be cooked. They're a little bit slimy. And if you're looking up native history in the local prairies, you're going to find this plant everywhere. The bumblebees from around here love camas. Now, a little bonus family for you guys that you don't have to memorize are the orchids. It's another monocot, so like grasses and lilies, it's going to have those parallel veins in their leaves. They are going to live on top of trees or on top of rocks. These are plants called epiphytes, meaning they grow on top of other plants. Like lilies, they have a very high ornamental value, and you can find a lot of the common varieties in the store. Here are some monkey face orchids just because they look fun. The vanilla bean is a surprising other example of an orchid.